No, I mean, when they draft something, we'll certainly have a look at it. I think the right place for that work to be done is the Joint Standing Committee on Treaties, which analyses international agreements. Problem being, the Treaties Committee can't get to work until there's already an instrument on the table. Now, India is a nuclear weapons state. It's outside the safeguards regime, and it's in the midst of an arms race with nuclear-armed Pakistan. This is a terribly volatile situation to be interjecting the interests of the Australian uranium sector.
But the point is, you haven't seen the safeguards protocol yet, have you? So you don't know what the government's going to negotiate with India, and they argue that it will largely be similar protections to what we would get from the non-proliferation treaty.
Which also hasn't prevented the distribution of uranium and the proliferation of nuclear weapon states. But thinking it through, I struggle to imagine what kind of safeguards agreement they could craft that wouldn't prevent Australian uranium from going into poorly manufactured Indian nuclear plants sitting in a tsunami-prone coast, which is what happened in 2004. Thousands of people were killed when a tsunami flattened the southern coast of Tamil Nadu, where they're now building nuclear power stations. How is the safeguards agreement going to prevent, what we've heard from senior Indian officials saying we need to lock in overseas sources of uranium for civil nuclear power so that domestic uranium sources can go into nuclear weapons? How's the safeguards agreement going to manage that kind of displacement where we sell them uranium for fuel and they are therefore able to use their own uranium for nuclear weapons?
So there's no safeguards that would keep the Greens happy, is there?
No, look, I'm here profoundly opposed to the expansion of the nuclear industry anywhere.
But the fact is, in India, you've got hundreds of millions of people without regular supplies of electricity. That's poverty, isn't it?
It is.
Why shouldn't we be playing our role to help them achieve that?
This is the most catastrophically expensive way of turning a turbine that humankind has ever come up with. I've spent quite a bit of time in India. I've worked with Indian energy campaigners, and nuclear power stations are the most profoundly expensive and unsafe way of generating electrical current that we've ever come up with.
They're clean though. They can be clean in terms of the environmental, the impact on the climate change.
Staying with India though, around the Rawatbada nuclear power plant where you've got which is in Rajasthan, where you've got 15 years worth of longitudinal health studies. Any nuclear power plant, no matter how well regulated and well run, leaches a small quantity of radioactive isotopes into the air. So radioactive noble gases, things like tritium, which is radioactive water. And around these Indian nuclear plants, they have increases in cancer, in childhood mortality, in mutations, and in all sorts of other exotic diseases. So these are not plants that you would want to live next to. That's the reason why there are tens of thousands of people demonstrating in Tamil Nadu at the moment. And for the day that it would take it out of her schedule, I wish the Prime Minister would visit and see the reality.
But do you understand why some people look at the Greens and think that this is hypocritical when you want low emissions technologies to be pursued, and this country needs to pursue development, and that this is a lower emissions technology?
These plants just burn money. Can you imagine if the Prime Minister had rocked up in Delhi and announced a major new collaboration between Australia and the Indian renewable energy tech deployment sector? That would be something that the whole country could get behind. The Indians have a vibrant and actually very innovative renewable energy sector that is much more appropriate at a village scale for the kind of environments that people need electricity for, as well as some large-scale projects. They've got a good solar resource in the northwest.
But it's not going to provide the base load that uranium
it will.
Nuclear power can do.
Renewable energy is providing baseload electricity right now in Spain, where they have built solar plants that can run around the clock. Now, I don't understand why we're not building them here in Australia, but we'll get there, and that's going to be a big campaign for us. But as far as the Indian context is concerned, they've got an abundance of renewable energy resources. You could build some of these big solar plants that can run 24/7 for much less than the price of building a nuclear plant.
Senator Ludlam, appreciate your time today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, much appreciated.